This was the real beginning, leaving the inn and following the warder into the night. He shook himself and tried to firm his resolve. He had no choice but to go, but he would come back to Emmonsfield, however far or long this journey was. "What are you waiting for?" Lan asked from the door that led out of the back of the common room. With a start, Matt hurried to him. Trying to convince himself that he was beginning a grand adventure, Rand followed them through the darkened kitchen and out into the stable yard. Chapter 10. Leave-taking. A single lantern, its shutters half closed, hung from a nail on a stall post, casting a dim light. Deep shadows swallowed most of the stalls. As Rand came through the doors from the stable yard, hard on the heels of Matt and the warder, Perrin leaped up in a rustle of straw from where he had been sitting with his back against a stall door. A heavy cloak swathed him. Lan barely paused to demand, "Did you look the way I told you, blacksmith?" "I looked," Perrin replied. "There's nobody here but us. Why would anybody hide?" "Care and a long life go together, blacksmith." The warder ran a quick eye around the shadowed stable and the deeper shadows of the hayloft above, then shook his head. He muttered half to himself. "Hurry," she says. As if to suit his words, he strode quickly to where the 5 horses stood tethered, bridled, and saddled at the back of the pool of light. 2 were the black stallion and white mare that Rand had seen before. The others, if not quite so tall or so sleek, certainly appeared to be among the best the 2 rivers had to offer. With hasty care, Lan began examining cinches and girth straps, and the leather ties that held saddlebags, water skins, and blanket rolls behind the saddles. Rand exchanged shaky smiles with his friends, trying hard to look as if he really was eager to be off. For the first time, Matt noticed the sword at Rand's waist and pointed to it. "You becoming a warder?" He laughed, then swallowed it with a quick glance at Lan. The warder apparently took no notice. "Or at least a merchant's guard," Matt went on with a grin that seemed only a little forced. He hefted his bow. "An honest man's weapon isn't good enough for it." Rand thought about flourishing the sword, but Lan being there stopped him. The warder was not even looking in his direction, but he was sure the man was aware of everything that went on around him. Instead, he said with exaggerated casualness, "It might be useful," as if wearing a sword were nothing out of the ordinary. Perrin moved, trying to hide something under its cloak. Rand glimpsed a wide leather belt encircling the apprentice blacksmith's waist, with the handle of an axe thrust through a loop on the belt. "What do you have there?" he asked. "Merchant's guard indeed," Matt hooted. The shaggy-haired youth gave Matt a frown that suggested he had already had more than his share of joking, then sighed heavily and tossed back his cloak to uncover the axe. It was no common woodsman's tool. A broad half-moon blade on one side of the head and a curved spike on the other made it every bit as strange for the 2 rivers as Rand's sword. Perrin's hand rested on it with a sense of familiarity, though. "Master Luhan made it about 2 years ago for a wood buyer's guard. But when it was done, the fellow wouldn't pay what he had agreed, and Master Luhan would not take less. He gave it to me when..." He cleared his throat, then shot Rand the same warning frown he'd given Matt. "When he found me practicing with it. He said I might as well have it since he couldn't make anything useful from it." "Practicing?" Matt snickered, but held up his hands soothingly when Perrin raised his head. "As you say, it's just as well one of us knows how to use a real weapon." "That bow is a real weapon," Lan said suddenly. He propped an arm across the saddle of his tall black and regarded them gravely. "So are the slings I've seen you village boys with. Just because you never use them for anything but hunting rabbits or chasing a wolf away from the sheep makes no difference. Anything can be a weapon if the man or woman who holds it has the nerve and will make it so. Frolics aside, you had better have that clear in your mind before we leave the 2 rivers.
The army's getting desperate. We're about to have a lot of company.
Tar-Valon alive." His face and voice told his death and hard as a rough-hewn gravestone stifled their smiles and their tongues. Perrin grimaced and pulled his cloak back over the axe. Matt stared at his feet and stirred the straw on the stable floor with his toes.
Survival of the
The
fittest.
warder grunted and went back to his second. The silence lengthened. Solid, a warder, an eye to die. What more could you ask? Matt whispered, sounding as if he were something cold. "You believe her, Rand?" Perrin asked. "I mean, what would Trollocs want with us?"
Don't get predictable.
One that glanced at the warder. Lan appeared absorbed in the white mare's saddle.
Night, sunshine.
Back toward the stable door. Even so, they huddled together and spoke softly. Rand shook his head. I don't know. He had it right by our farm when the aliens attacked. They attacked Master Luhan's house in the forge first, here in the village. I asked the mayor. It's as easy to believe they are after us as anything else I can think of. Suddenly realized they were both staring at him. You asked the mayor? Rand said incredulously. She said not to tell anybody. I didn't tell him why I was asking, Rand protested. You mean you didn't talk to anybody at all? You didn't let anybody know you were going? Perrin shrugged defensively. Moraine said I said not anybody. We left notes, Matt said, for our families. They'll find them in the morning. Matt, my mother thinks Harbon is the next thing to Sheo Ghul. He gave a little laugh, so he did not share her opinion. Not very convincing. She put a lot in the cellar if she believed I was even thinking of going there. Master Luhan is stubborn as a stone. Mistress Luhan is worse. If you'd seen her digging through what's left of the house, saying she hoped the Trollocs did come back so she could get her hands on them. Friend, man, I said. I know she's an Aes Sedai and all, but the Trollocs were really here. She said not to tell anybody. If an Aes Sedai doesn't know what to do about something like this, who does?
Bring it on.
Rand rubbed at his forehead. His head hurt. He could not get that drink. He agreed that we have to go. Moraine was in the clothes and a dark gray and heavy foot, with his skirt belonging to riding astride. And his different dress was the only doorway for him. Rand eyed her walking back. Despite the flames he had seen, there was no sign of charge, or even soot. I couldn't go off without letting him know. He eyed for a moment with his first lips before turning to the other. And did you also decide that a note was not enough? Matt and Perrin talked on top of each other, assuring her they had only left notes the way she had said. Nodding, she waved them to silence and gave Rand a sharp look. What is done is already woven in the pattern. Lan? The horses are ready, the warder said. And we have enough provisions to reach Baerlon with some to spare. We can leave at any time. I suggest now. Not without me. Egwene slipped into the stable, a shawl-wrapped bundle in her arms. Rand nearly fell over his own feet. Lan's sword had come half out of its sheath. When he saw who it was, he shoved the blade back, his eyes suddenly flat. Perrin and Matt began babbling to convince Moraine they had not told Egwene about leaving. The Aes Sedai ignored them. She simply looked at Egwene, tapping her lips thoughtfully with one finger. The hood of Egwene's dark brown cloak was pulled up, but not enough to hide the defiant way she faced Moraine. I have everything I need here, including food, and I will not be left behind. I'll probably never get another chance to see the world outside the Two Rivers. This isn't a picnic trip into the Waterwood, Egwene, Matt growled. He stepped back when she looked at him from under lowered brows. Thank you, Matt. I wouldn't have known. Do you think you three are the only ones who want to see what's outside? I've dreamed about it as long as you have, and I don't intend to miss this chance. How did you find out we were leaving? Rand demanded. Anyway, you can't go with us. We aren't leaving for the fun of it. The Trollocs are after us. She gave him a tolerant look, and he flushed and stiffened indignantly. First, she told him patiently, I saw Matt creeping about, trying hard not to be noticed. Then I saw Perrin attempting to hide that absurd great axe under his cloak. I knew Lan had bought a horse, and it suddenly occurred to me to wonder why he needed another. And if he could buy one, he could buy others. Putting that with Matt and Perrin sneaking about like bull cows pretending to be foxes, well, I could only see one answer. I don't know if I'm surprised or not to find you here, Rand, after all your talk about daydreams. With Matt and Perrin involved, I suppose I should have known you would be in it too. I have to go, Egwene, Rand said. All of us do, or the Trollocs will come back. The Trollocs? Egwene laughed incredulously. Rand, if you've decided to see some of the world, well and good. But please spare me any of your nonsensical tales. It's true, Perrin said, as Matt began. The Trollocs... Enough, Moraine said quietly, but it cut their talk as sharply as a knife. Did anyone else notice all of this? Her voice was soft, but Egwene swallowed and drew herself up before answering. After last night, all they can think about is rebuilding. That and what to do if it happens again. They couldn't see anything else unless it was pushed under their noses. And I told no one what I suspected. No one. Very well, Moraine said after a moment. You may come in. A startled expression darted across Land's face. It was gone in an instant, leaving him outwardly calm, but furious words erupted from him. No, Moraine. It is part of the pattern now, Land. It is ridiculous, he retorted. There's no reason for her to come along, and every reason for her not to. There is a reason for it, Moraine said calmly. A part of the pattern, Land. The warder's stony face showed nothing, but he nodded slowly. But Egwene, Rand said. The Trollocs will be chasing us. We won't be safe until we get to Tar Valon. Don't try to frighten me off, she said. I am going. Rand knew that tone of voice. He had heard it since she decided that climbing the tallest trees was for children. But he remembered it well. If you think being chased by Trollocs will be fun, he began. But Moraine interrupted. We have no time for this. You must be as far away as possible by daybreak. If she is left behind, Rand, she could rouse the village before we have gone a mile. And that would surely warn the Murdral. I would not do that, Egwene protested. She can ride the Gleeman's horse, the warder said. I'll leave him enough to buy another. That will not be possible, came Tom Maryland's resonant voice from the hayloft. Land's sword left its sheath this time, and he did not put it back as he stared up at the Gleeman. Tom tossed down a blanket roll, then slung his cased flute and harp across his back and shouldered bulging saddlebags. This village has no use for me now, while on the other hand, I have never performed in Tar Valon. And though I usually journey alone, after last night, I have no objections at all to traveling in company. The warder gave Perrin a hard look, and Perrin shifted uncomfortably. I didn't think of looking in the loft, he muttered. As the long-limbed Gleeman scrambled down the ladder in the loft, Land spoke, stiffly formal.
How about this?
Moraine said out. Everything is a part of the pattern, my old friend, Moraine replied. We cannot see.
How about this?
But we
You see that?
Tom put his feet on the stable floor and turned from the ladder, brushing the straw from his patch-covered clothes. In fact, he said in more normal tone, you might say that I insist on traveling in company. I have given many hours over many months to
Great stuff,
I might end my days. Trollocs took part in one of the hoof. He looked askance at the warder's sword. There's no need for that. It's like back to Merry, Moraine said. We must go quickly and almost certainly in great danger. The Trollocs are still out there, and we go by night. Are you sure that you want to travel with us?
Mandatory citywide evacuation has been
Tom eyed
ordered.
a lot of them with a
Please
critical
remain calm
smile.
and proceed as directed by
If it is
security
not too
force
dangerous
personnel.
for the girl, it can't be too dangerous
Should you
for me.
witness-
Besides, what Gleeman would not face a little danger to perform in Tar Valon? Moraine nodded. Rand scabbarded his sword. Rand wondered what would have happened if Tom had changed his mind, or if Moraine had not nodded. The Gleeman began saddling his horse as if similar thoughts never crossed his mind, but Rand noticed that he eyed Land's sword more than once. Moraine said, what horse for Egwene? The peddler's horses are as bad as the Duran, the warrior replied sourly. Strong but slow plotters. Bella, Rand said,
You in
getting a look
advance
from
for your
Rand that made him
cooperation
wish to
and
step silent.
swift compliance.
But he knew he could not dissuade Egwene. The only thing left was to help. Bella may not be as fast as the others, but she's strong. I ride her sometimes. She can keep up.
Bring it on!
Shaw muttered under his breath. Might be a little better than the others, he said finally.
Halt! Follow my lead!
Then she will have to do it, Rand, all the saddles are better. Quickly. We have carried too long already. Rand hurriedly filled the saddle and blanket in the tack room, then fetched Bella from her stall. The mare looked back at him in sleepy surprise when he put the saddle on her back. When he rode her, it was bareback. She was not used to the saddle. He made soothing
Thanks, Hope.
noises while he tightened the girth strap, and she accepted the offer with no more than a shake of her mane. Taking Egwene's bundle
Time to
from her,
switch, kiddo.
lying down behind the saddle, she nodded and adjusted her skirt.
How about this?
They were not divided for riding astride, so her wool stockings were bare to the knees. She wore the same soft leather shoes as all the other village girls. They were not at all suited for journeying to Watch Hill, much less
How about this?
she shouldn't come.
Great stuff,
I
Hope!
wasn't thinking enough about the Trollocs, but I promise you I will take care of you. I'll take care of you. At his exasperated look, he smiled and bent down to smooth his hair. I know you'll look after me. We will look after each other. But now you had better look after getting on your horse. All of the others were already mounted and waiting for him, he realized.
What was that all about?
The only horse left riderless was Cloud, a tall gray with a black mane and tail that belonged to John Thane, or had. He scrambled into the saddle, though not without difficulty, as the gray tossed his
These
head
people
and
want to
pranced
kill us,
sideways
don't they?
as Rand put his foot in the stirrup, and his scabbard caught in his leg. It was not chance
Nothing to
that his
worry
friends
about.
had not chosen Cloud. Master Thane often raced the spirited gray against merchants. Rand had never
How
known
about
him to
this?
but he had never known Cloud to give anyone an easy ride either. Land must have given a huge price to dancing increased, as if the gray were eager to run. Rand gripped the reins firmly and tried to think he would have no trouble. Perhaps if he convinced himself, he could convince the horse too. An owl hooted in the night outside, and the village people jumped before they realized what it was. They laughed nervously and exchanged shamefaced looks. Next thing, field mice were chasing up the trees, Egwene said with an unsteady chuckle. Lan shook his head. Better if it had been wolves. Wolves? Theron exclaimed, and the warder favored him with a flat stare. Wolves don't like Trollocs, Blacksmith, and Trollocs don't like wolves or dogs either. If I heard wolves, I would be sure there were no Trollocs waiting out there for us. He moved into the moonlit night, walking his tall black slowly. Moraine rode after him without a moment's hesitation, and Egwene kept hard to the Aes Sedai's side. Rand and the Gleeman brought up the rear, following Mat and Perrin. The back of the inn was dark and silent, and dappled moon shadows filled the stable yard. The soft thuds of the hooves faded quickly, swallowed by the night. In the darkness, the warder's cloak made him a shadow too. Only the need to let him lead the way kept the others from clustering around him. Getting out of the village without being seen was going to be no easy task, Rand decided as he neared the gate. At least without being seen by villagers. Many windows in the village emitted pale yellow light, and although those glows seemed very small in the night now, shapes moved frequently within
The
them.
state of emergency has
The
been
villagers
declared.
watching to see what this night brought.
Sanctum military operations
No one wanted
will
to be
be
caught by
commencing within
surprise
this
again.
area momentarily.
In the deep shadows
For your
beside
own
the inn,
safety,
just
a
on the point of
mandatory
leaving the stable
citywide
yard,
evacuation
Rand
has been
abruptly
ordered.
halted, motioning
Please
sharply for
remain
silence.
calm and proceed as directed by
Boots
security
clattered on the
force
wagon bridge,
personnel.
and here and there on the bridge,
Should you witness
moonlight
any
glinted off
suspicious
metal. The boots clattered across the bridge, grated on gravel, and approached the inn.
activity,
No sound
please
at all
alert the
came from
nearest
those in the
uniformed
shadows.
soldier.
Rand suspected his friends at
Thank
least
you in
were too
advance
frightened to
for your
make a noise,
cooperation and
like him.
swift compliance.
The footsteps halted before the inn, and the grayness just beyond the dim light from the common room windows. It was not until John Thane stepped forward, a spear propped on his stout shoulder, an old jerkin, sewn all over with steel discs, straining across his chest. Rand saw what they were.
How about this?
A dozen men from the village and the surrounding farms, some in helmets or pieces of armor, had burned dust covered in attics for generations. All with a spear, or a wood axe, or a rusty drill. The miller peered into a common room window, then turned with a curtain. It looked right here. The others formed in two ragged ranks behind him, and the patrol marched into the night as if stepping to two different jobs. Two double Trollocs would have them all for breakfast. Lan muttered, their boots had faded. He turned his stallion back. Come. Slowly, quietly, the warder took them back across the stable yard, down the bank, through the willows, and into the wine spring water. So close to the wine spring itself, the cold, swift water, gleaming as it swirled around the horse's legs, seemed to lap against the soles of the riding boots. Climbing out on the far bank, the line of horses wound its way under the warder's deft direction, keeping away from any of the village houses. From time to time, Lan stopped, signing them all to be quiet, so no one else heard or saw anything. Each time he did, however, another patrol of villagers and farmers soon passed. Slowly they moved toward the north edge of the village. Rand peered at the high-peaked houses in the dark, trying to impress them on his memory. Fine adventurer I am, he thought. He was not even out of the village yet, and already he was homesick. But he did not stop looking. They passed beyond the last farmhouses on the outskirts of the village, and into the countryside, paralleling the north road that led to Tarn Ferry. Rand thought that surely no night sky elsewhere could be as beautiful as the Two Rivers sky. The clear black seemed to reach forever, and myriad stars gleamed like points of light scattered through crystal. The moon, only a thin slice less than full, appeared almost close enough to touch. If he stretched, and a black shape flew slowly across the silvery ball of the moon. Rand's involuntary jerk on the reins halted the gray. A bat, he thought, but he knew it was not. Bats were a common sight of an darting after flies and fighting. The wings that carried this creature might have the same shape, but they moved with the slow, powerful sweep of a bird of prey.
How about this?
The way it passed back and forth in a long arc left no doubt of that. Worst of all was the size. For a bat to seem so large against his knee, it would have had to be almost within arm's reach. He tried to judge in his mind how far away it must be and how big. The body of it had to be as large as a man, and the wings... It crossed the face of the moon again, wheeling suddenly downward to be engulfed by the night. He did not realize that Lan had ridden back to him until the water caught his arm. What are you sitting here and staring at, boy? We have to keep moving. The others waited behind Lan. Half expecting to be told he was letting fear of the Daleks overcome his sense, Rand told what he had said. He hoped that Lan would dismiss it as a bat or a trick of his eyes. Lan growled a word, sounding as if it left a bad taste in his mouth. Egwene and the other two rivers folk stared at the sky nervously in all directions, but the gleaming groaned softly. If the Myrddraal has a black car at its command, then he will soon know where we are. He does not know. We must move more quickly than we can across the sea. You may still see Tom Ferry ahead of the Myrddraal. He and his son will not cross as easily as we.
How about this?
What is it? It was Tom Maryland who answered her horseman. Moraine had just quartered him control. Not even the dark could hide the sharpness of the bow. Before anyone could ask the gleamers for more, Lan began giving directions. We take to the North Road now.
Thanks, Hope.
Boy alive, follow my lead, keep up and keep together. He wheeled his horse about. The others galloped toward the
Hope, follow my lead.
Chapter 11. The road to Starring Ferry.
Try that on me.
On the hardtack dirt of the North Road, the horses stretched out, manes and tails streaming back in the moonlight as they raced northward, hooves pounding in steady rhythm. Lan led the way, black horse and shadow-clad rider all but invisible in the cold night. Moraine's white hair
How about this?
striped with stripes, with pale stars speeding through the dark. The rest followed in the night, and they were all tied to a rope with one end in the water. Rand galloped back in front, Tom Maryland just ahead, the others left distinct. The gleeman never turned his head, reserving his eyes to where they went. Not when they ran from. If Daleks appeared behind, he stayed on his flying horse. For that flying creature, the Drakkar, it would be up to Rand to sound an alarm. Every 2 minutes, he turned his neck to peer behind while he clung to Cloud's mane and rein. First, the sky was empty, and only darkness and shadows made his eyes be brown. Now that the gray had been let loose to run, the animal sped through the night like a ghost. And Cloud wanted to go faster. He wanted to catch the black, train to catch the black. Rand had to keep a firm hand on the reins to hold him back. Cloud lunged against his restraint as the gray thought this were a race, fighting it for mastery with every stride. Rand flung the saddle and reins with every muscle strong. Fervently he hoped his mount did not detect how uneasy he was. Cloud did, he would lose the one real edge he held, however precarious. Rand kept a worried eye on Bella and on her rider. When he had said the Chevy had to stay with the others, he did not meant not to run.
How about this?
Rand had not wanted Egwene in the number. But he spoke to her and felt
How about this?
or would he try to leave her behind? The eyes to die and the warrior thought Rand and his friends were important in some way. But for all of Moraine, he did not think they considered Egwene in that case. If Bella fell back, she would fall back too, whatever Moraine and Lan had to say. Back where the veil was from. Back where the Drakkar was. With only blood desperation, he silently shouted at
No problem.
like the wind. Silently tried to will strength into him. His skin crickled, and his bones felt as if they were freezing, ready to split open. The light number run. Bella ran. On and on they sped, northward into the night, time fading into an indistinct blur. Now and again, the lights of farmhouses flashed into sight, then disappeared as quickly as imagination. Dogs' sharp challenges faded swiftly behind, or cut off abruptly as the dogs decided they had been chased away. They raced through darkness, relieved only by watery pale moonlight. A darkness where trees along the road loomed up without warning, then were gone. For the rest, murk surrounded them, and only a solitary night bird's cry, lonely and mournful, disturbed the steady pounding of hooves. Abruptly, Land slowed, then brought the file of horses to a stop. Rand was not sure how long they had been moving, but a soft ache stilled his legs from gripping the saddle. Ahead of them in the night, light sparkled. A tall swarm of flies held one place among the trees. Rand frowned at the light in puzzlement, then suddenly gasped with surprise. The fireflies were windows, the windows of houses covering the sides and top of a hill. It was
Hold on to
Rock
hope.
Hill.
Yeah,
He could hardly believe they had come so far. They had probably made the journey as fast as it had ever been traveled. Following Land's example, Rand and Tom Maryland dismounted. Cloud stood head down, sides heaving. Lather, almost indistinguishable from the horse's smoky side, flecked the gray's neck and shoulder. Rand thought that Cloud would not be carrying anyone further that night. Much as I would like to put all these villages behind me, Tom announced, a few hours' rest would not go amiss right now. Surely we have enough of a lead to allow that. Rand stretched, knuckling the small of his back. If we're stopping the rest of the night in Watch Hill, we may as well go on up. A vagrant gust of wind brought a fragment of song to the village and the smell of cooking that made his mouth water. They were still celebrating in Watch Hill. They their bell time. He looked for a glance, leaning against Bella, slumped with weariness. Running down as well, many a sigh and much stretching of aching muscles. Only the warder and the Aes Sedai showed no visible sign of it.
How about this?
Not putting tiredly. Maybe a hot mutton pie with a white boar. Pausing. I've never been a fan of the white boar is not nearly as good as the wine spring. The white boar isn't so bad. Lots of hot tea to take the chill off my bones. We cannot stop until we
How
are
about
alone.
this? How about this?
Not for more than a few minutes. But the horse go down to death if we try to go any further tonight. For Aes Sedai, surely you... He had vaguely noticed the movement among the horses, but he had not paid any real attention to what she did. Now she brushed past him to lay her hands on Cloud's neck. Rand fell silent. Suddenly the horse tossed his head with a soft whicker, nearly pulling the rein